So I'm saying, folks, it is finally here. The brand new squeaky clean championship season is just around the corner. And kicking it all off, we got the honour. It's Blackburn Rovers taking on Derby County, who are promoted back into the second tier, who, of course, will get off to the best possible start. Well, in this video, we're going to find out. That's right, folks, back once again with another match preview. Looking forward to the start of Blackburn Rovers' campaign in the Championship. They're, of course, going to take on Derby County in the opening game live in front of the Sky cameras, of course. So, what's been the making of these two clubs over the summer? Some faces have gone, some new faces have arrived, but of course, who will get, of course, that perfect start and win on opening day? We'll get to all of that, of course, in a minute. If you know where you've been, smash your subscribe. Your one-stop shop for Blackburn Rovers is right here under one Rooski. The previews are back. The coverage is back. I'm going to jump into it in just a second. Big shout out to the VIPs. They are the patrons. You know who you are. And again, if you're new, smash the old subscribe. So let's, of course, just waste no more time and talk about the game itself. It is Rovers. It is Derby. And it is, of course, coming at you right here. Not here, but here. Over at Ewood Park. That's right. That is the venue for this match that will kick us off for the campaign. Now, these two sides, familiar foes, of course, but haven't met or played against each other in a little bit of time. What am I talking about? Well, the clocks look like this. 29 matches these two sides have played since 1996. With Rovers winning 13 of them, Derby winning 9 of them, and there's been 7 draws between the two sides. Of course, Rovers' best win against Derby, 4-0 win. They scored 36 goals in those 29 matches with an average of 1.24 goals a game on average. Meanwhile, Derby, their biggest win against Rovers was a 3-0 win, scoring 27 goals in those 29 matches, 0.93 goals a game on average. Now, they come into this, of course, both perfect records, no wins, no draws, no defeats. But form, I don't know if this is form from pre-season or form from the end of last season, but Rovers on 67% form for them in the moment, just one defeat in those last 6 matches. Meanwhile, Derby coming in on 50% form for them as well. Now let's take a look at these two opponents here and the recent 10 matches between the two sides. Of course, Rovers edging it, but on the recent performances, is heavily in favour of Rovers. Just one defeat. That was, of course, back in March 2020 at Pride Park, where Derby came out with a 3-0 win. But Rovers surprisingly have a good record against them. So we're looking forward to this one. Hopefully, Rovers can continue the majority of this form here. Come away with a win. And speaking of the last 6, then, if we break it down a little bit into more detail, now this is the last 6, both at Pride Park and Ewood Park. As you can see, Rovers just the one defeat in the last 6 here. Coming into most recently with a 3-1 win over Derby. Tyree Stoller on the score sheet. Scotty Warren, of course, on the physio table at the moment. And Sam Gallagher now wearing the red and white stripes of Stoke City. Of course, the last win for Derby in any venue was that 3-0 win back in March the 8th. Of course, with Louis Sibley, of course, now playing for Oxford United. Chris Martin, he's out there somewhere, and Buckaroo with a red card. Now, if you want to look at the last 6 at Ewood, Rovers have got a good record against Derby, just conceding a couple of goals in the last 6, with Derby's last point being all the way back into October 2015. Some familiar names in the goal-scoring ranks there, but of course, it's going to be old change here. So let's take a look at, of course, the values of the two squads here as we enter match day. Of course, coming at you on this coming Friday, we'll have the watch-along. I will be here live for my debut watch-along, and I'm going to be a little bit excited as well because we've got some new players to get behind, but the valuations of the squads at the moment, Rovers are 48 million euros compared to that of Derby. We've also got an O market value, whatever that means, of just shy of 1.75 million euros, with Derby's knocking on around about 700,000 as well. Average age, 25.3 for Rovers compared to that of Derby's 27.1. They have more national team players than us. We have more youth national players. The foreigners just edging in Rovers' favours, of course. So let's take a look at the coaches under the microscope. It will be John Eustace in the dugout for Rovers up against Paul Warne and Derby County. Now, Paul Warne's been there since September 22nd, 2022. He's got an average points per match ratio of 1.48 points per match. That's equal to that of John Eustace, of course, who was signed or appointed back in February 2024. His record against Derby as a coach, not necessarily here at Ewood Park, but as a coach, John Eustace, it's just the one match and that was a defeat against Derby, of course, and that game was actually managed by Paul Warne. As for Paul Warne, his record against Rovers is not the greatest, but he has picked up around about a 1 point per match ratio on average. He's managed against them 7 times, winning once, losing twice, but drawing 4 in his tenure as gaffer. Let's take a look then at the squads and starting with the host, that is Blackburn Rovers. And these are the faces that we're going to hope to spur us on this time around. We've got Ainsley Pears between the sticks as number 1 for the time being. Young Jack Barrett has joined us from Everton, but he is more for the academy or the youth setup, not necessarily for the senior team at this moment. As we look at the defenders, familiar faces, Dominic Hyam, Hayden Carter, Harry Pickering is still there. Scott Wharton, like I said, is on the physio table, but we have been boosted by the signings of Carl McFadzean, signed on a new deal. And Danny Bath finally joins us after what appears to be 2 years of trying to make it happen. So those experienced heads will boost us in the defensive ranks. Meanwhile, into midfield, currently Sam Smodish is still a Blackburn Rovers player. That will probably still be the case heading into match day. Will he feature? I doubt it, but he's still on the books, and I think we're banking on some of that cash to improve the defensive ranks and maybe even improve some other areas of the field. But we are boosted by the signings of Andreas Wyman, a player I've always liked. He was at the Euros for Austria this year. He, of course, will compete for spots in that attacking area. But, of course, familiar names, Arne Sigurdsson in there, Tyrus Dolan, Sondre Tronstad. Early shout-out for Player of the Year. Usually the Player of the Year goes the following year. Smodic must have done a clean sweep last time around. He's off. So Tronstad could be the next syllable asset. Ryan Hedges, Joe Rankin-Casello. Lewis Travis is here. Or Willie, of course, another player being touted for a possible swap. Stoker after him. And up top, we've got the likes of Yuki Ohashi, Japanese guy, goal-scoring machine out there. Mac Gay coming in from Belgium. But there are our new strikers in a new era at Blackburn Rovers. Let's take a look at the transfers in a bit of a condensed summary here. We, of course, said goodbye to Sam Gallagher. Samir Telelovic is gone, and Leopold Wallstadt has gone. We generated about 3 million from those deals, according to Flash Score here. Meanwhile, coming in, we said hello to Andreas Wyman, Danny Bath, Yuki Ohashi, Mac Gay coming in there, and of course a couple of youngsters to add to the mix. Let's take a look at the starting 11 for me in this one. Again, this is mine, got no inside knowledge, but this is what I would go with. It's a bit of a conservative sort of defensive sort of team here, and then maybe mix it up in the second half and try and go for it. But Ainsley Pears, Pickering, Dom Hyam, Hayden Carter, and Callum Britton make up the defensive 5-piece there. Then we have Sondre Tronstad and Lewis Travis, both in defensive midfield ranks, with Joe Rankin-Casello in midfield, adding a bit of bite as well. Meanwhile, Sigurdsson on the left, Tyrus Dunn on the right, Mac Gay starting. In my eyes, you're keeping the likes of Yuki Ohashi, Andreas Wyman on the bench, and of course the experienced heads over Danny Bath and co. We've also got Ryan Hedges in the mix there. We've got John Buckley, but it's going to be interesting to see the first game, and of course you can catch that live with me on the watch long this coming Friday. That's why I'm excited about that. But let's take a look at our opposition. Of course, Derby. They are, of course, threadbare in the goalkeeping ranks, and it does look like Josh Vickers will be the number 1 for this game. I do anticipate them to strengthen their positions there. Of course, some experienced heads in defence: Craig Forsyth, Sonny Bradley, familiar name in Ryan Nyambe with Derby County at the moment. Of course, a lot of hopes and financial backing on the shoulders of young Erin Cashin, of course, this hotly tipped player to be one for the future, and hopefully we might generate a bit of cash for Derby in the later stages. Meanwhile, into midfield, the likes of Abu Adams has brought in Ben Osborne, of course, he's got a bit of bite in there as well. Joe Ward, of course, familiar names in the EFL. And up top, the goal scoring machine, James Collins, Jerry Yates coming in from Swansea, Caden Jackson coming in from Ipswich, and a couple of other interesting names. Connor Washington, of course, back in the second tier. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the transfer market. Again, condensed transfer markets for Derby County. We're looking at the outs. We say goodbye to Lewis Sibley, Joe Wildsmith, been snapped up by West Brom, Dwight Gale. Last I heard was on trial at Stockport County. He may or may not get an offer there. Meanwhile, coming in, David Uzu coming in from Crystal Palace on loan, Ibu Adams, permanent deal from Cardiff, and Kenzo Goodman from AZ Alkmaar could be a bit of a coup as well in midfield. Jerry Yates, Caden Jackson, and of course a couple of frees there. Corey Blackett-Taylor and Ben Osborne. This is how I see Derby County lining up here, with Josh Vickers between the sticks, cashing at left back, Callum Alder, Curtis Nelson and Ryan Nyambi. Ben Osborne, David Uzo in midfield, Kenzo Goodman in that midfield supporting them. Mendes Lang on the left, Barkhusen on the right, Caden Jackson up top. So those are the 11s, but of course, what about the key men, the key individuals of both of these two sides? We've got Sam Smodic, the key man, or the most valuable man for Rovers as of right now. I doubt he will feature. I'd be surprised if he featured. But you never know. You never know. He might start a game. But of course, that any injury could actually scupper Rovers' season if that was to be the case. So I doubt it will feature Sammy Smarsh. Meanwhile, Jerry Yates could start. Probably may come off on the bench as they try to get him used to the climate here at Derby County. So those are the key individuals. Let's take a brief look back at last season. Of course, a division apart last season. Rovers, of course, best players, the top 10 players listed on the graphic there. Sam Smodic currently at the club. Adam Wharton made the switch mid-season. We also lost Tommy Bloxham, youngster there, of course, was featured sparingly. Leopold Walstadt, of course, was a goalkeeper. I know he got 7.06 ranking, but realistically, that doesn't really justify his performance. James Hill, a great addition on loan. There was murmurs of him coming in again to support the cause here, but that has fizzled out a little bit. And then you got maybe the real heroes. Sondre Truster, Callum Britton, Tyrese Dolan with lows, 6.9 across the board there. Ryan Hedridge has a 7.10, but he was injured for a good chunk of the season as well. As for Derby, like I said, Ian Cashin seems to be the key man for them. 7.38 and a promotion-winning campaign for Derby County. Mendes Lang as well, 7.29. Max Bird. Didn't see his name on the ranks there. I think he might have got snapped up. Craig Forsyth still there. Curtis Nelson still there. Kuna Hoonahane made the switch to Barnsley. Martin Waghorn also released from Derby from their winning side there. Let's take a look again under the microscope. The left-hand side being that of Rovers, the right-hand side being that of Derby. And again, you see the average scores on the top of the graphic. This is, of course, a relegated, threatened side, Blackburn Rovers, compared to a promotion-winning side of Derby County. And again, that's represented by a lot of these graphics. You know, when everything's going well, of course you're gonna be banging in the goals and conceding not many goals and etc. So it does look favourable when we compare the two sides under the microscope from last season. But as you can see, as it gets down into the nitty gritty, where of course a lot of it's more even Stevens. That's where it's really you can find out the true quality between the two sides from last season when we look at it. Of course, let's take a look at the table. Of course, it means absolutely nothing at this stage. But one thing that's not represented on the graphic is Sheffield United are actually starting on -2. They're on -2 points for the season, so they're right down there at the bottom. The winner of this potentially could go top of the league for matchday number 1 heading into Saturday. So that's of course something we got to bear in mind. And these are the other games that were going on at the same across the weekend. And it is a bit of a weird weekend. No 3 o'clock kickoffs, but the spotlight will be shared by Blackburn Rovers and Derby County, as well as over at Deepdale. It'll be Lancashire will be buzzing on Friday night. Preston North End up against Sheffield United, also in kicking off at the same time. Then we head into a bit of a blockbuster Saturday, all 12:30 kickoffs. We got Cardiff City against Sunderland, QPR against West Brom, Middlesbrough against Swansea, Leeds United kick off their campaign to get back to the Premier League, up against Portsmouth, who are back in the Championship. That's going to be a cracker. Millwall against Watford, Oxford United against Norwich City, Stoke City, Coventry, Hull City, Bristol City, and of course into Sunday we have Sheffield Wednesday against Plymouth and Luton Town against Burnley. That's of course coming at you on Monday night. That's right. So that is that. What about my pick on this one then? Of course there's a lot to think about. It's a lot of question marks around this side. I don't know. Rovers pre-season's been okay, not necessarily stellar. I think our only defeats realistically came against Nuremberg, who are a second division side out in the Bundesliga. As for Derby, they've not had their best pre-season, but they did end on a high note with a big win over Real Valladolid. Do we take much from that? Of course, I'm excited to see the new players. This is a new era, and hopefully there's still more to come. There's rumours of a move for a goalkeeper for Rovers. I don't think that will affect Ainsley Pears being the number one for the opening game of the season. We may see a new goalkeeper for the Stockport County game in the Cup, but of course that's another day. Let's concentrate on the first one. Let's get off to a perfect start as well. Hope that we can get the win, because that will just give us a big old boost. So if I'm gonna be pushed into a corner and reveal my prediction, I'm gonna go with a 2-1 win for Rovers. It ain't gonna be necessarily pretty. It might be a little bit gritty, but it is under the spotlight, and hopefully a chance for some of these new guys, and maybe even some players maybe still out to try and impress. The Tyree Stolans, of course, Lewis Travis, of course, to showcase what they've got. The team that starts this match against Derby might not necessarily be the team that, of course, will be the main team for Rovers. We may still see some arrivals, and we may even see some departures. There are talks of Dom Hyam, Lewis Travis, Tyree Stolan still murmuring around in the background in the floorboards here. So let's not necessarily say that this is it. But for now, this is it. The previews are back. Hopefully the reviews will be back. The watch-alongs will be here as well. So we'll be back Friday for that. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully you are too. But until then, subscribe, smash. Oh, before you go, of course, there's my prediction. 2-1 win. Yes. Get your prediction in down the bottom there. And of course, we'll reveal who got the right scoreline on the review. That's right. Well, who will reveal? Of course, if I get it right, of course, I'm going to give myself a big old pat on the back. But if you get it right, I'll give you a big old shout out. So get down there, put your prediction in black and white so I can see it. And then, of course, we'll see who got it right, who got it wrong. Name and shame. That's coming at you, of course, for the review. But until then, subscribe, smash the like. I can't wait. Hopefully you can too. I'll see you Friday. Until then, we're done.